Have you ever stopped and thought about why one person at 72 is out in the garden every morning, blood pressure perfect, no medications, no complaints, while another person at 64 is sitting across from me with a folder full of test results, genuinely confused about what went wrong? Both of them lived their lives. Both of them tried, but one was doing the right things. The other was doing the things everyone said were right. Those are two completely different categories. And right now, I'm going to take them apart one by one. Subscribe to Dr. Waterling and hit that like button if you want the actual truth about your health, not polished promises. What I'm going to tell you today, nobody at your next doctor's appointment is going to bring up. The system is not designed to help you fix the cause. It profits when you keep treating the consequences. Help this channel reach 1,000 subscribers because someone has to say this out loud. 15 years of practice, thousands of patients, and one conclusion I keep coming back to every single week. The people who live long and live well aren't doing anything heroic. No superfoods, no extreme diets, no morning ice baths, no fistfuls of supplements. They do simple things, they do them correctly, and they do them every day. Not out of discipline, not out of willpower, but because those things became habits. Meanwhile, the people who get sick young are often doing something, just the wrong things, or they've been carrying myths around for decades that have no basis in actual medicine. Today, we're going through 5 major areas: genetics, food, movement, sleep, and stress, and lab work, including how to actually use a doctor. No padding, no fear-mongering, only what works. Let's start with genetics, because this is far and away the most popular excuse I hear in my office. Doctor, my mother died at 60, my grandmother at 58. What am I supposed to do with genes like that? I hear some version of this almost every single day. And every single time I say the same thing. Your genes are not a sentence. Your genes are the hand you were dealt. What you do with that hand, that's a completely different conversation. There was a large-scale study conducted in Denmark on identical twins. Identical twins are people with 100% identical genetic material, not similar, identical. Researchers followed them for decades. The finding was clear. Genetics accounts for roughly 20 to 25% of how long a person lives, 30% at the absolute ceiling. Everything else, lifestyle, habits, environment, relationships, what you eat, how you sleep, how you handle stress, that's the other 70 to 80%. The part you control right now today, think about it this way. Imagine you were handed an apartment. One person gets a unit in a brand new building. Solid walls, tight windows, everything tight. Another person gets a unit in an old building, cracks in the foundation, a leaking roof, different starting conditions. That's real. I won't pretend otherwise. But if the person in the new apartment never fixes anything, never opens a window, runs the pipes into the floor, in 10 years, it's a disaster. And if the person in the old apartment stays on top of it, patches what needs patching, takes care of things consistently, that apartment stands for 50 more years. That's genetics. I've watched this play out hundreds of times. A man comes in 55 years old. His father died of a heart attack at 52. He's in a panic. Doctor, do I have 3 years left? No. He has however long he decides to give himself. We started working together. First, we cut his cigarettes. Not gone overnight. That wasn't the plan. 5 a day, then 3, then 0. We added walking. Not a gym, not a trainer, just to the store and back. We swapped out the nightly deli meat for fish twice a week. 1 year later, his cholesterol had dropped by 1 1/2 points. His blood pressure was stable, and he told me for the first time in 10 years that he was actually sleeping. That's not genetics. That's what happens when you stop letting genetics be an excuse. Now, I'm not here to pretend genes don't matter. They do. There are real hereditary predispositions: type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, certain cancers. Type 2 diabetes is a condition where the body loses its ability to properly regulate blood sugar. If your family has that history, the answer is not panic. The answer is pay closer attention, start earlier, get checked more often. I call this the traffic light rule. If your family has serious disease history, you're on yellow. Not red, not stop. Attention, those are not the same thing. Here's what that actually means in practice. If diabetes ran in your family, check your fasting blood sugar and glycated hemoglobin. That's a test showing your average blood sugar over the past 3 months. Every year after 40, not after you've already been hit before. If heart attacks or strokes are in your family history, watch your blood pressure, your cholesterol, and your triglycerides. If there were cancers, talk to your doctor about a personalized screening schedule, not the generic one-size-fits-all checklist, but one built around your specific family history. And here is something most people never consider. A lot of what people call hereditary disease is actually hereditary behavior, not genes, habits. If 3 generations of a family fried everything in lard, ate salt by the spoonful, and thought physical activity was for people with nothing better to do. Of course, everybody has high blood pressure. That's not in your DNA. That's a lifestyle being handed down alongside the recipes. I remember a woman, 61 years old, type 2 diabetes. She told me, everyone in my family has this. My mother had it, my aunt had it, my brother has it. I asked her what she usually had for lunch. Pasta, white bread, canned fruit compost with 5 spoons of sugar. My mother always made it that way. Her mother made it that way and had diabetes. She makes it the same way and has diabetes. That's not a genetic curse. That's a sugar-loaded compost and bread on top of pasta 3 times a day. We didn't start with medication. We started with the plate. Out went the white bread, replaced with whole grain and not everyday pasta, only from durum wheat portions cut in half. The compost made without sugar with cinnamon and a wedge of lemon. More vegetables, more protein, a small handful of nuts as a snack. 4 months later, her glycated hemoglobin dropped from 8.2 down to 6.7. 4 months. No starvation, no suffering, just a different plate. Here is a practical step you can take right now. Take a piece of paper and write down what your closest relatives had. Mother, father, grandparents in plain language, not medical terms. Dad had a heart attack at 63. Grandmother had high blood sugar. That is your genetic map. Bring it to your doctor and ask for a personalized screening plan. Not the standard one where everyone over 50 gets the same checklist, but one built specifically for your history. And when people tell me, I don't care how long I live, I just don't want to suffer, I tell them, let's make it so you live longer and don't suffer. That's not a fantasy. That's exactly how people live in what researchers call blue zones, regions of the world with the highest concentrations of people who reach extreme old age. Okinawa in Japan, Sardinia in Italy, Ikaria in Greece. People there live into their 90s and 100s and they're not in beds. They're walking, cooking, working in gardens. What connects them? Not a single miracle gene, a set of simple, consistent habits. Those habits are exactly what we're going to cover. Let's move to food. Everyone's favorite topic and simultaneously the most tangled, contradictory mess in modern health information. I sometimes think if my patients stopped reading the internet and just ate sensibly, I'd have 40% fewer appointments. One website screams, "Give up all meat." Another, "Eat only meat. Carbs are poison." A third, "Drink lemon water with baking soda every morning and cancer won't touch you." And so, a 60-year-old sits across from me, confused, frightened, and genuinely unsure what to put on his plate. Here's the first thing you need to understand. There is no single magic food that will extend your life. Not garlic, not turmeric, not buckwheat, not goji berries. That's marketing. Expensive, well-packaged marketing. What extends your life isn't one food. It's your eating pattern. What you eat consistently every day, month after month, year after year. One afternoon of grilled meat at a backyard barbecue changes nothing. 20 years of processed deli meat for breakfast every single morning. That's a different story entirely. First, protein. This is the one everyone overlooks. After 50, the body starts losing muscle mass. This process is called sarcopenia. You don't need to memorize the word, just understand what it means. Every year, your muscles get a little smaller, a little weaker, unless you do something about it. By the time some people reach 70, they've lost up to 30% of the muscle mass they had at their peak. And muscle isn't just aesthetic. Muscle is your structural support. It holds your spine upright, protects your joints, gets you off a chair, keeps you balanced, keeps you from going down on an icy sidewalk in February. Muscle is built from protein, and the majority of people over 50 eat catastrophically little of it. Oatmeal for breakfast, soup for lunch, potatoes, and a salad for dinner. Where is the protein? It's not there. Simple rule, every single meal should have a protein source. Breakfast, an egg or cottage cheese. Lunch, a piece of fish or chicken. Dinner, legumes, a bit of hard cheese, or a serving of lean meat. A portion roughly the size of your palm 3 times a day. This is not a bodybuilder's regimen. This is the baseline for a healthy person over 50. Now, let me address the myth directly. After 60, eating meat is harmful. That is completely false. Where did it come from? Someone read a study about processed meat, stripped it of context, and it spread. Processed meat means sausage, hot dogs, bacon, smoked meats. Yes, those you should limit genuinely. But regular meat, beef, chicken, turkey, rabbit is an excellent source of protein, iron, and vitamin B12, especially when you bake it, boil it, or braise it rather than frying it black in a pan. I had a patient, 67 years old, a retired engineer. He came in pale, exhausted, struggling to climb a single flight of stairs. 3 years earlier, he told me he had read that meat was toxic, eliminated it completely. Switched to grains, vegetables, fruit. I ran his labs. Hemoglobin at 103, that's below normal, indicating mild anemia. Ferritin scraping the bottom of the range. Vitamin B12 below normal. His body was starving, not from lack of food, but from lack of the right food. We brought back meat gradually, alternating with fish. 3 months later, he was a different person. Color in his face, energy, mood, everything shifted. Second, vegetables. When I say eat your vegetables, most people picture punishment. Raw carrots, plain cucumbers, a tasteless salad with no dressing. No, vegetables should be enjoyable. Braised cabbage with carrots and onion, roasted zucchini with garlic, beets with a drizzle of unrefined oil, a thick vegetable soup with fresh herbs. That's food, not a sentence. Why do vegetables matter so much? 2 reasons: fiber and antioxidants. Fiber. Think of it as a brush for your intestinal tract. It sweeps up waste, excess cholesterol, toxins, and moves them out. Without adequate fiber, the gut functions like a clogged pipe. Things back up, ferment, cause problems, and when digestion is compromised, everything suffers: skin, immune function, mood, sleep quality. Antioxidants are compounds that protect your cells from oxidative damage, the kind of slow cellular wear that accumulates over decades. The richest sources are your brightly colored vegetables: beets, carrots, tomatoes, bell peppers, spinach, fresh parsley, and dill. Practical step. Add 1 portion of vegetables the size of your fist to lunch and dinner, not as a side to the side dish, instead of a second serving of potatoes or another slice of bread. Start 3 times a week. After a month, expand from there. Third, what to reduce. I'm not going to tell you to give up everything you enjoy. I'm a realist, not a monk. Drastic overnight changes create stress, and chronic stress is its own enemy of health. But 3 categories are worth beginning to reduce gradually right now. Sugar. Not the sugar in an apple, the sugar in your tea and jam and cookies and sweetened yogurts, in carton juice. Do you know how much sugar is in a glass of packaged apple juice? 5 to 6 teaspoons, exactly as much as in a glass of cola. That's not a scare tactic. That's what's on the label. After 50, excess sugar is a slow burning fuse. It raises insulin, the hormone that regulates blood glucose. And chronically elevated insulin drives systemic inflammation. Inflammation accelerates aging in your blood vessels, your joints, your brain. This isn't fear-mongering, this is basic biochemistry. What to do? Start with your tea. If you're putting in 3 spoons, go to 2. Next week, 1.5. A month later, 1. 2 months from now, try it without. Your palate will adjust. Taste receptors are not permanent, they recalibrate over weeks. One of my patients, a retired teacher, 63 years old, had been putting 3 spoons of sugar in her tea for 40 years. She told me she couldn't possibly drink it any other way. 3 months later, she tasted her old amount and set the cup down. It's disgustingly sweet. I can't believe I used to drink that. Habits change, not in a day, in a month. Salt, not elimination, reduction. The guideline is 5 to 6 g per day. That's roughly 1 teaspoon total. The average person consumes 10 to 12 grams and they don't even know it because the salt is hidden in bread and cheese, in canned foods, in deli meat, in pickled vegetables. Excess salt retains water, raises blood pressure, and puts load on the kidneys and heart. After 50, when your arterial walls are no longer as elastic as they were at 25, this matters more. Simple solution: take the salt shaker off the table, put it in a cabinet. If you want flavor, use lemon juice, garlic, fresh dill, basil, black pepper, processed foods, sausage, hot dogs, smoked meats, store-bought patties, frozen pizza, instant noodles. These are the products actually worth walking away from. They're dense with salt, sugar, trans fats, fats chemically modified in ways that damage your blood vessel walls, and preservatives while delivering essentially zero nutritional value. Year after year, study after study across hundreds of thousands of people in multiple countries, those who eat the most processed food get sick sooner and die earlier. The replacement is simpler than it sounds. Instead of deli meat, a piece of baked chicken breast, 25 minutes in the oven covers 3 days of lunches. Instead of a store-bought mayonnaise salad, vegetables with olive oil. People tell me cooking at home is complicated. You know what's actually complicated? Treating 30 years of consequences from processed food breakfast. That's complicated. One more thing on food water. I won't give you the 2L a day oversimplification because actual hydration needs vary by body weight, weather, activity level, and what you eat. But here's what I will say. Most people over 50 are chronically underhydrated. Not because they refuse to drink, because the sensation of thirst diminishes with age. The brain simply stops sending the signal as reliably as it used to. The consequences pile up quietly. Thicker blood, which increases clotting risk, reduced kidney efficiency, dry skin, constipation, headaches, persistent fatigue. Simple fix. Put a bottle of water on your kitchen counter. Every time you walk past it, take 3 or 4 sips. Don't force yourself to drain a full glass. Just a few sips consistently throughout the day. Eating after 50 isn't a diet. It isn't restriction. It's a choice you make every time you open the refrigerator. Each choice is a small step, either toward your health or away from it. Start with one. Add protein to your breakfast, cut 1 spoon of sugar from your tea, swap the processed meat for something you cooked yourself, 1 step per week. In 6 months, you won't recognize your plate. In a year, you won't recognize your lab results. Now, movement. This is the topic surrounded by the most damaging extremes I encounter. On one end, people who believe that after 50, you need to conserve yourself. Sit down, lie down, don't strain anything. My doctor said no physical exertion. So they sit for years and then wonder why their legs won't carry them, why their back has locked up, why climbing to the 2nd floor leaves them breathless. On the other end, someone watches a video about an 80-year-old marathon runner and decides at 62, with damaged knees and 0 training base, to go run 6 miles tomorrow. Result: injury, pain, discouragement, and the couch again. The single most important thing I can tell you about physical activity: the best exercise is the one you will actually do every day. Not the most intense, not the most trending, the one that fits your life and that you won't quit after a week. There's a real phenomenon that physicians track called sedentary disease. It sounds almost comical, but it isn't. When a person sits for more than 8 hours a day, and many retirees are doing exactly that, television to armchair to couch, a cascade of problems begins. Metabolism slows, muscles weaken without stimulation, blood circulation drops, blood sugar rises because muscle tissue is the primary consumer of glucose, and muscles that aren't working aren't consuming anything. Think of a car that's been parked in a garage for years. Nobody hit it, nobody broke it, but the battery is dead. The oil has thickened. The seals have dried out. It just won't start. That's what happens to a body deprived of movement. It doesn't break from overuse. It breaks from disuse. What does the science say? Consistent data shows that regular walking, just walking, not running, not jumping, reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease by roughly 30 to 35%. That's a larger benefit than some medications deliver. And it requires no gym membership, no trainer, no special equipment, just legs and intention. How much? Ideally, 30 to 60 minutes a day. But if you're currently doing nothing, start with 15. Seriously, 15 minutes. After breakfast, step outside, walk around the block, and back. That's it. Week 2, 20 minutes. Week 3, 25. Your body will begin asking for more because it will start feeling the difference. I had a patient, a retired accountant, 66 years old, who came to me with back pain, poor sleep, and constant fatigue. Medications weren't touching it. Physical therapy gave her temporary relief at best. I asked how much she walked each day to the store and back. Maybe 10 minutes. 10 minutes for an entire day. We started simply 20 minutes of walking every morning. Not fast, not uphill, just walking through the courtyard, through the park, down the sidewalk. 2 months in, her back pain was half of what it had been. Of what? 4 months in, her sleep had normalized. 6 months later, she walked into my office and said, "Yesterday I walked 5 kilometers and I felt good. No medication change, no procedures, 20 minutes of walking every morning." But walking isn't the whole picture. There's another type of activity that becomes critically important after 50, and almost nobody talks about it in the right way. Resistance exercise, working your muscles against load. And before you picture a barbell, stop. I mean simple body weight movements you can do in your living room. We talked about sarcopenia, the gradual loss of muscle with age. The only physiological way to slow or reverse it is to regularly challenge the muscles, not overload them. Challenge them. Those are different things. What does that actually look like? Squats while holding onto a chair, back 10 repetitions morning and evening. Wall push-ups if floor push-ups are too much. Calf raises while standing at a counter 20 times, a wall plank. Just holding your body straight with your arms against the wall for 15 seconds, building up gradually. These movements take 10 minutes total, 10 minutes a day, but they send your muscles a clear signal. You are needed, stay, and they do. Along with the muscle comes strength, balance, healthy bone density, a faster resting metabolism, and protection against falls. On the subject of falls, this is serious. One of the leading causes of catastrophic injury in people over 65 is a fall. A fractured hip is not just painful, it means months in bed, loss of independence, depression, and often significant permanent functional decline. The primary prevention isn't a calcium supplement, it's strong leg muscles and solid balance, which is exactly what chair squats and calf raises build. And one more dimension of movement I want you to understand, it isn't only physical. When you move, your brain receives more blood, more oxygen, more of the nutrients it needs to function. The brain releases compounds that stabilize mood, not pharmaceutical analogies, the real thing. People who walk consistently develop lower rates of anxiety and depression. They retain sharper memory. They think more clearly. I've watched this enough times that I've stopped being surprised by it. Someone walks into my office flat, gray, complaining of mental fog. They start walking daily. A month later, there's something different in their eyes. Faster speech, a smile. "Doctor, I'm doing crossword puzzles faster than I did 20 years ago." That's not inspiration. That's blood flow and oxygen delivery. Practical plan for the first 2 weeks. Week 1, every day, 15 minutes of walking after breakfast. A pace where you can hold a conversation but feel your breathing slightly pick up. Not faster, not slower. Week 2, extend to 20 minutes and add twice daily, morning and evening, 3 exercises, 10 chair squats, 10 calf raises, 10-second wall plank. That's your foundation. Everything else builds from there. When should you see a doctor before starting? If you have joint problems, especially knees or hips, if you have any history of heart disease, if you get short of breath with minimal effort, if you haven't had a checkup in years, See your doctor first. Get an EKG and blood pressure checked and then begin. Safety before everything. Nothing I say here replaces a physician who actually knows you. Now, sleep and stress. This is the section most people mentally file under. Not that important. I hear it all the time. It's just some lost sleep. It's just some stress. I'm not made of glass. And then those same people sit in my office with blood pressure at 170/105 and ask where it came from. Not stressed, your body has a different opinion. Here's the internal mechanism. When you're under stress, your body releases a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is your fight or flight hormone. It evolved to help our ancestors survive a predator. The problem is that the human brain cannot distinguish a real physical threat from a screaming argument with a neighbor or a disturbing news broadcast. To the brain, it's all the same threat signal and it runs the same program every time. Cortisol. Short term, this is useful. It mobilizes your system. But when cortisol stays elevated for months, for years, it begins to destroy things. Blood vessel walls, immune function, the stomach lining, memory formation, sleep architecture. Picture pressing the accelerator in your car and not letting go. The engine screams, the RPM needle is in the red. 1 minute, manageable. 10 minutes, the engine overheats. An hour, it burns out. Chronic stress is that accelerator held down for years, and you're standing there wondering why the engine is failing. What can you actually do about it? I'm not going to tell you to just relax. That is the most useless advice in medicine. You can't relax on command any more than you can fall asleep on command. The harder you try, the worse it gets. But there are specific things that work physiologically. First, breathing. I know how it sounds, but here's a clinical fact. When you execute a slow, deep exhale that is longer than your inhale, your parasympathetic nervous system activates. That's the branch of your nervous system responsible for rest and recovery. It physically, measurably reduces circulating cortisol, not as a metaphor, biochemically. The technique is simple. Inhale through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for 2. Exhale slowly through your mouth for 6 to 8 counts. 5 cycles, 3 minutes total. Do this morning and evening, and do it the moment you feel yourself beginning to escalate. A patient of mine, a former factory supervisor, 61 years old, came in with severe insomnia, 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night. He was taking prescription sleep medication, which helped him fall asleep, but left him feeling drugged and foggy every morning. I taught him this breathing technique. He was openly skeptical. "Doctor, what is this breathing nonsense? I'm a serious person." 3 weeks later, he called. "I don't know how, but I'm falling asleep in 15 minutes. Before, it took 2 hours." The serious person and his breathing. Second, sleep schedule. I know it sounds like something from kindergarten, but after 50, a consistent schedule isn't a preference. It's a physiological requirement. Your body runs like a precision clock. When you go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, within roughly 30 minutes, your brain synchronizes all its internal processes to that rhythm.